We don't have any, Chair.
Thank you very much. The minutes of the meeting last held before Christmas on the 8th of December, they've been circulated. Can you just confirm them to be a true record that I can sign later on? Can I have a vote on that, please? Or, proposed and seconded, that's all in favour. Thank you very much indeed. Number 3 is disclosure of members' interests. Richard Wearmouth.
Thank you. I'll disclose interests as Chair of Advance Northumberland with regard to the Capital Strategy Working Group paper that is potentially giving funding to the Wooler development, and also on the final item on the agenda. For the first one, I propose just to switch off my camera and mute myself unless the legal advice is to leave the meeting. The last one, I will leave the meeting as that's the last item.
Thank you very much. Guy Renner-Thompson.
Thank you, Chair. I have the...
I think I was going to declare the same interest and he froze.
If you... Do you want to do that again, Guy? Sorry. Are you...
Mouth as a member of the Board of Advance.
And what are you going to do?
I will turn off my microphone for the Capital Strategy Group part, and I'll leave the meeting for the final agenda item.
Right, thank you very much indeed. Are there any other members that wish to declare an interest? If not, can we move on then to number 4, which is notification of the estimated collection fund balances 2021, the council tax and business rates. And I'm going to pass straight on to Chris Hand to help us with this one. Chris.
Yes, thank you, Chair. This is quite a technical report, and it provides members of Cabinet with the estimated collection fund balances for the current financial year 2020-21. So under the Local Government Finance Act 1992, the Council is required to calculate the council tax collection fund estimate by the 15th of January, and then to notify the precepting bodies of their respective shares so that it informs their budget setting. And similarly, under the 2013 business rates regulation, there's a requirement to calculate a business rates collection fund estimate by the end of the month, the 31st. This year's been a bit of an unusual year given the impact of COVID on collection fund balances for both council tax and business rates, along with numerous other additional business rates relief, which have been funded through additional Section 31 grants. There's also been a change to the accounting rules that means that the collection fund deficits that arise during this financial year can now be spread over the next 3 financial years rather than all need to be taken in full to the general fund next financial year. So the paper outlines the council tax estimated collection fund deficit of 2.6 million. That's made up of 1.8 million of an in-year deficit and 0.8 million in relation to prior years. And the details of that calculation are shown in Appendix 1 of the report. The main reasons for the deficits are the increase in the number of council tax support claimants and an increase in the bad debt provision, both as a result of COVID. Of that 2.6 million deficit, 0.2 million is the share relating to Northumberland Police and Crime Commissioners, and the council's 2.4 million share will be spread 1.3 million next year and 0.6 million in the following 2 financial years, as outlined on page 5 of the report. For business rates, there is a headline estimated collection fund deficit of 42.5 million, 41.8 million of in-year deficit, 0.7 million relating to prior years, and the details again of that are shown in Appendix 2. But I think it's important to emphasise that the vast majority of that deficit relates to the expansion of the business rate relief for retail, leisure and hospitality businesses, which the government put in place as part of the COVID-19 response. So the council received additional Section 31 grants to cover that cost of 39.8 million. And so the net impact on the general fund is considerably smaller at 1.5 million. So the council share of that headline collection fund deficit is 21.4 million, so reflecting the current 50% rates retention arrangements with central government, and that will be spread 20.4 million next year and 0.3 million in the following 2 years, again as that's shown on table in page 5 of the report. Also just to highlight that the government also announced as part of the spending review further support for local council fund collection losses, so councils receive 75% compensation of their irrecoverable losses on council tax and business rates relating to this financial year 2020-21. Happy to take any questions, Chair.
Good. Thank you very much indeed. Can I bring in Nick Oliver? Nick, would you like to add anything?
No, I think that's a very comprehensive and thorough report of quite a complicated concept from Chris, and obviously, COVID has had a severe impact on all of the collection this year, and let's hope that isn't so bad this year in the year about to start.
Good. Okay. Any questions for Chris or for Nick on this one? I can't see any, so we need to just look at the recommendations again, please, which you have in front of you. Is the proposal for those recommendations? Guy Renner-Thompson is proposing. Jeff Watson is seconding. Can you show by hands all in favour of those recommendations, please? That's unanimous. Thank you very much indeed. Can we move on to number 5 now, which is around the national funding formula and school funding 2021-22? And if I could ask Guy Renner-Thompson to come in first as the cabinet member responsible, and then I'll ask Kath McAvoy to come in after that.
Thank you, Chair. This report highlights the changes to the that are coming for the national funding formula and how we are dealing with them. We're expecting an uptick in the Block Schools grant of £14.5 million. However, it must be emphasised that we haven't had the final figures released by the DFE yet. That's a guesstimate by our officers, who are generally very good at estimating every year what our increase is going to be. The other part of the report is how we're going for a 2-stage approach on changing school funding rather than doing it all in one go. This was done in line with schools forum and consultation with schools. So we're not imposing this on schools. This is what they've asked for, and this is what we're doing. But I'll hand over to Kath McAvoy-Carr for the detail of the report.
Thanks very much. I've actually asked Sue Aviston, who's got the technical detail of the report, to be able to go through with you in a little bit more detail.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kath.
Good morning, Sue.
Good morning, Councillor Sanderson. Yes, obviously the details is actually in the paper. This is an annual report that we bring through to Cabinet, and predominantly asking for a delegated decision for that to be with Councillor Renner-Thompson and Kath McAvoy as our Exec Director of Adults and Children's Services. This is predominantly, as Councillor Renner-Thompson has said, the DFE give us very late notice on our final allocation. Therefore, we need the delegated approval to be able to make tweaks to the final funding formula values. So predominantly that is what the report is asking to do. What we've also done in Northumberland over the last 3 or 4 years is seek the approval of Schools Forum to move money from one block of funding from the schools block actually into the high needs block, and this is to address the growing population that we've got within our school population for children needing additional needs, and therefore the funding gets moved into that block to support the needs of those children, and we've successfully done that over the last 3 or 4 years. As Councillor Renner-Thompson has said, really over the last 4 years we have been moving towards the national funding formula in Northumberland. We've tried to do that in an organised way to provide the least amount of turbulence as and when the national funding formula comes in for our schools in Northumberland. This has meant now that we've only got 3 funding formula values that are outside of the national funding formula, and we're suggesting within this paper that we take a 2-stepped approach to those individual values to bring those in line with the national funding formula. Just one thing to add, really, to say that we have finally received our DSG allocation since the writing of the report, so we can confirm that we've just got over £203 million allocated to Northumberland. Again, that is an increase of 8.7% compared to our current financial year. But as identified in the paper, you can see that the teachers' pay and pension grant has now been included in that allocation. So a lot of that funding will be offset on the increases in pension and pay awards for teachers. But overall, it still means that we've got in the region of £3.7 million additional funding into schools. So we haven't been able to put that in the paper that came in after the paper had been drafted, but we're working up the detail now, what implications that will have on the individual values, and present that to Councillor Thompson, Rena Thompson and Kath McAvoy to make the final decisions. Thank you, Chair.
Good, thank you very much. Excellent news about the increased funding. Any questions to Guy or to Sue or to Kath McAvoy-Carr? No? Okay, well, I think Richard Weirman.
I guess just a request really. So you'll circulate something in due course on that additional funding. It's great, and coming off the back of quite a generous local government settlement that we've had previously. What in the past, or things that you think that will be spent on?
Sorry, Richard, there was lots. Could you repeat just the last bit?
I think that might be Glenn.
I think it's Guy Rena Thompson.
No. It was Glenn, I think. So it was just a question of, I guess that we'll see something circulated on that. It's good that it comes on top of a very generous local government settlement at the end of last year. Have you got any idea as to where that funding's likely to go at this stage, or is that something that you'll be sharing when you get a bit more into the details, since it's such new information?
Yes, that's right. We'll share that. I think on the when we presented the report to FACTS last week, they've asked for a further report to come through to FACTS that will identify the individual allocations for schools. I think what we've said within the report is that we'll address those three funding formula values where we are not in line with the national, and then we will also look at our free school meal funding as well, because that's the other factor where we're out. So we will look to address some of the imbalances within that funding formula value as well. I'm more than happy to bring a further report or share outside of the cabinet meeting what that has for individual schools, what the implications are for individual schools. Apologies.
Excellent, thank you. Great news.
Chair, you're on mute.
Thank you. You see, this is what happens. Thank you for that. Yes, so what I was saying was that if we could have an update on that really good news about the extra money and how that will benefit Northumberland and its pupils, that'd be really helpful, please. And in the meantime, if I could just go to the recommendations.
Chair, I don't know if you just want to make note of what Scrutiny said on that report. The report was circulated to members yesterday.
Yeah, perhaps you could remind us of that, Karen.
Yes, certainly. The committee welcomed the increase in funding and were pleased to see the involvement and recommendations of the schools forum. A discussion was held on the 0.5% transfer from the schools block to high needs block, which questioned if this figure would be sufficient given the current COVID situation. The committee received assurance that this value remained appropriate. A further report will come to the committee once the final figures have been allocated to allow the committee to maintain an overview on funding to schools during the coming year, and resolved that Cabinet be advised that this committee supports the recommendations outlined in the report.
Yeah, very, very helpful. Thank you very much indeed. Okay, so with that, we'll turn to the recommendations. Could I have a proposal for those recommendations, please? Proposed by Richard Weirmouth and seconded by Nick Oliver. Could you show, please, by hands if you are in favour of those? I have that as unanimous, so thank you very much indeed for that, and that good bit of news, which is always nice to get. We move on now to the summary of new capital proposals considered by the Oxford Capital Strategy Group. And again, some really good news on this as well. To Neil Bradley, and ask Nick to mute himself, please. Thank you. Neil, good morning.
Good morning, Chair. Thank you for that. Yes, we've got two items on the Capital Strategy Group agenda for today. The first one is the acquisition of affordable housing in Wooler. As the report says, our housing function had approval already to acquire 7 two-bedroom bungalows that were being developed by Advance Northumberland on their Wooler site. Following further review and potential difficulties in trying to secure additional stock in that area, the proposal is that the council's housing function acquire 4 more two-bedroomed houses from that development, to increase the affordable rented units that they hold in that area. I mean, this will also assist with NCC's plans for the supply of new homes for affordable rent generally in the county as well. The scheme already has planning permission and has got approval, so we're just looking to add 389,000 to the allocation that was already put forward, taking it to just over 1 million to acquire those additional houses.
Okay, John Riddle.
Yes, I would support this proposal. You know, this is about the right homes in the right place. There's a proven need here, and you know, it adds to our aspiration to increase the supply of affordable rent accommodation.
Indeed, absolutely. Any questions or queries? Yes, Nick.
But not more of a, not really a question, but it's just good, just to note that it's really good to see this thing being done in a rural area. I think it's really important that, really following on from John's point about the right houses in the right places, we must make sure that we have a good affordable housing provision in our more rural areas as well, obviously, as the urban areas.
Indeed. No, it's absolutely the right thing to be doing, and very welcome move indeed. And I'm sure people up in Glendale will be very grateful for this, to see that we really do mean business about providing affordable, well, council houses, I suppose, and certainly good affordable housing. And this is a really good step. So thank you very much, Neil, for that.
Yep, thank you, Chair. Yeah, so the second and last one, there's obviously been papers through the Cabinet already on the substantial work that's going into the regeneration of Blyth and the various projects that are happening. This is a sort of technical adjustment that's needed within the accounts because there is a bid being put together with MHCLG for a town deal for Blyth. It could unlock up to £25 million worth of funding. The regeneration team are still putting that together, and it's due to be submitted towards the back end of this month. But we need to show the council's commitment to that by moving 3 million of the allocation that was already in the medium-term financial plan for Blyth to be put towards this specific bid and this specific project. So we're just looking for that technical approval within the budget to be able to move it to this scheme, so the regeneration team can take that forward, Chair.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to ask Richard Wearmouth to add a little bit on this, because it is hugely important, this scheme. Richard?
Thanks, Chair. So, yes, I think this is really important that we allocate this money. Blyth's very fortunate to be one of 2 locations across the country picked for by the government to be the beneficiary of both Future High Street funding and of a town deal. The Future High Street funding, of course, was announced on Boxing Day, and it was very good to see Blyth secure £11 million worth of funding from central government, and those projects will be making rapid progress. We've previously approved, as you'll be well aware, some initial funding from both the council and passing through from the Better Towns Fund, or the town deal for Bow Street. So that bit will be getting underway, depending on COVID restrictions, in the next month or so, hopefully. And this will allow us to anchor more great projects across one of Northumberland's great towns. Thank you.
Yeah, good. Thanks for that. Anyone else want to make any comments on this? Okay then, Neil, thank you for that. I'm going to take us back to the vote now, bearing in mind that Guy and Richard have given their declarations of interest. Can I take the first recommendation first? On Wooler, can you show, or can I have a proposer and seconder, please? Proposed by Richard Dodd and seconded by John Riddle. All in favour? Yeah, that looks fine. And then the second one, bring in Richard and Guy into this one, which is about the Blyth town deal of 3 million towards Blyth. Can I have a proposed by Richard Wearmouth and seconded by Nick Oliver? All in favour, please? Yep, that one's unanimous as well. So thank you very much, Neil, for that. And it is really good to see great progress in 2 really important areas. So thank you very much indeed. That's great. Okay, now we come to the interim director of place. A decision under the finance and contract rules, the acquisition of car park at Bunker Site, Hexham. Are you going to be speaking to this, Rick O'Farrell, is it?
I could do very briefly, Chair. I mean, there is no actual report. It is just reporting that I took a delegated decision towards the end of last year in conjunction with the then leader. The agreed acquisition price for the car park at the bunker had originally been 1.5 million. There were then changes had to be made when we as the client changed the actual specification of the car park, and there were some requirements required by planning. This took the tendered price when the contract went out to tender to 1.9 million, so we had to seek an increase in the allocation from the car park's allocation so we could proceed with the project. We subsequently did a lot of internal audit work and cost engineering to try to bring the price down. And the final price that we have agreed is just over 1.88 million, based on an independent valuation. So just recording that fact, that decision was taken, Chair.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much. That's just for our information. Nick Oliver.
Just really to note progress. It's great to see progress being made in Hexham. I represent a neighbouring ward, and it's there is definitely, or pre-COVID, there was certainly a significant car parking issue in Hexham, and it's great to see progress being made in resolving that.
Good, excellent. No, that's good news. Thank you very much indeed. Thanks, Rick, for that. And now we move into the closed session. So I'm going to have to ask if anyone, if we can move, please, to part 2. Would anyone like to make that recommendation that we need to go through to do that? Richard Weirmath, and seconded by Richard.
No. Not me, Nick. Sorry.
Oh, sorry, I meant Richard Dodd. I'm so sorry. I meant Richard Dodd. And Nick Oliver seconded, and everyone's in favour of that. So I now have to say that the public section of this broadcast is now finished. Can you tell when that's happened, Karen?
Yeah,